In the Middle Ages and in the early Renaissance, painters were in the same guild as pharmacists because they both ground things up and mixed them together. The thing is that were local were the least expensive things, and the thing that needed to be imported from a distance were, of course, the most expensive things. Of all was ultramarine blue, which was created by grinding up a lapis lazuli. The reason is why it's even called ultramarine blue is that it comes from very far away from Kari, that is modern-day Afghanistan. In Italian, it was called ultramarino, meaning from over the seas. Since people recognized that certain colors were more visually dazzling or more expensive to make, those colors would only be used for the most important parts of the painting, partly for economic reasons, but also for symbolic reasons. So for instance, the ultramarine blue, that very rich deep, almost purpley blue, was only reserved for the most important figure or the most important part of the painting, usually in a religious painting for the dress of the Virgin Mary. This is painting of Saint Andrew by Simon Martini. It's at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and this is really great example of talk about how gold was used pre-country up until the early Renaissance. Specifically or most widely in religious images to give them a kind of otherworldly quality to make them seem more spectacular and spiritual. This is real gold in the background. The figure is painted with egg tempera in the manner that we discussed before, so if you look carefully you can see the hatching technique that we talk about. But in the background we see gold, and that is in fact real gold. It's a gold leaf, and they wait that someone in the artist's workshop would prepare that is by pounding gold very thin. They use a very sticky red clay to attach the gold to the surface of the painting. This actually served a couple of purposes. One thing is that it was sticky, so it helped the gold stay where it was supposed to go. But the other thing was that it was important it was red because the gold was pounded so thin. It essentially is a little bit transparent, and the red clay underneath have given the gold a very warm glowing tone, rather than the colder yellow that it would otherwise have. I can actually see that especially on the left side of the painting. That's exactly why this is a great example to use to talk about gold leaf, because you can see the red clay comes through a little bit since the painting is about 700 years old and the surface has degraded a little. Why would this degrade is? It could be from overcleaning, probably. In fact, that's an important reason to think about why they use gold, because the church and the small chapel that this kind of painting were displayed in were of course not lit with electric light, but were primarily lit by candlelight burning in front of this object. And so that gold, especially with the red clay behind it, would create an incredibly reflective growing surface that really contributed to again the otherworldly quality of the represented subject. It must have been beautiful because you have two flickering frame, actually, and it would sort of dance against the surface. That was largely the point of religious painting up until the early 1400s.